Right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Pam Rakansky, and I am the YMCA YES facilitator here at the North Suburban YMCA in Northbrook, Illinois. Yay. It's my pleasure today to have a great speaker today about facilitating family conversations about aging. Today we have Rich. I didn't even ask you.
Buino.
Buino. Rich
Yes.
Buino, yes. So, Rich is a compassionate, creative social worker focused on enriching the lives of older adults and families. Rich leads a team of 4 social workers at CJE SeniorLife, tasked with guiding new and returning clients and a wide array of programs, supports and services, providing customized advice as well as internal and communal referrals. He and his team are champions for older adults. Yay! And their families to live lives in the fullest abilities with dignity and respect. We're going to have this talk today from CJE. We are recording it, so it will be a podcast for the future. So if you want to revisit us, you will be able to revisit us. This program will last about an hour. We will take questions if you want to put it in the chat box. Otherwise, we will get them to Rich during the talk if you want to, if it's something pertinent. Otherwise, there'll be questions at the end of this talk today. Yay! All right, today we are going to be talking about everyone's journey of aging is different and their experiences will vary. Today we're going to talk about the challenges we face and how to respond to them. And we're going to learn together with Rich and CJE. So with that, please welcome Rich.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Pam, and thank you for this wonderful invitation and platform as part of the WISE ongoing education efforts. So thank you, and thanks to my colleague Marla for making the connections too. So really happy to be here and further expand connections across our community that we serve for older adults. So I would love to be as interactive as possible in this. I know that some folks may choose not to be on camera. That's okay, or certainly feel free to not comment. But I also would encourage questions in the chat, as Pam said. And I have a lot of different slides I can flip through on various types of topics. I have a general overview and structure, but I do want this to be as beneficial for our audience as possible. So I wanted to see, before diving in, is anyone willing to share potential things that they, there's probably a reason for coming here. I don't see any free food around, but so that maybe some other reason. If anybody feels comfortable sharing, what is one seeking to either learn or what kind of benefit out of our time today? If anyone feels comfortable sharing on that.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you do want to
Yes.
respond.
Yeah. And it's not a quiz, no pressure. Um, so what I'm going to propose is a couple of potential learning objectives that I will highlight here. Based on the work that we do at CJE, and as for me, I'm one of the social workers here. I lead a team of fellow social workers. We talk to new clients and their family members every single day, and we offer dedicated time, whether you're new to us or you've worked with us a long time, chances to talk about what's on your mind regarding aging. So when I was thinking about this topic, family conversations around aging, it kind of dawned on me, it should have been obvious, that this is something we do every single day, all of us. And in reflecting and also talking with some of my colleagues, like our amazing home visiting social workers on the care management team, we really put our heads together. So what are some of the common things that might benefit families? I'm hopeful that after our time together in this conversation, we'll hopefully feel an increased awareness of how aging can have an influence on changing family dynamics, meaning the system of relationships within a family or even within an individual and a couple. I'm hopeful that through our work together, you'll be aware of some new tools and some additional supports on how to start and also carry forward and continue conversations with one's family, with one's loved ones, about some of the big issues and some of the thornier or stickier things that sometimes people avoid. And hopefully we'll feel a little bit more confidence, a little bit more comfort, and even possibly a few entertaining or fun ways to go about having what can sometimes be a bit of a scary, challenging conversation about things that happen as we age in our families. And then just broadly too, just some additional awareness, things to think about, and different sort of key points and key areas to be aware of that are often sort of the top 10 or actually it's the top 12 that my colleagues and I picked out of things to keep an eye on as we all age and within our family systems, as whether one is a care partner of offering care and facilitating care and support, or receiving care or being the beneficiary. There tend to be sort of commonalities, although every client and every family is different. There tend to be trends and sort of key things that come up over time that by keeping aware of and being able to talk about it and continue a conversation together with one's family, with one's support system and loved ones, hopefully be able to stay a step ahead of the curve, so to speak. So I'm open to additional ideas, and I hope this will start fostering some ideas and questions. Feel free to put those into the chat and make a little bookmark of them, and we'll continue away. So just for those who don't know much about CJE, or maybe you know a lot. So we have been around for 51 years now, CJE SeniorLife. We used to be called Council for Jewish Elderly. Some years ago, we rebranded. We work with folks of all different faith backgrounds and across all different, whether it be race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and it's really grown over the years. We focus on working with folks who are 60 and up, and oftentimes they're family members, so adult children, other loved ones, and it's really evolved. So you can read our mission and vision, and I think they would align quite closely with, I would think, our goals of the why of promoting health and well-being and family, and so where we come from and who we are. So as to aging, so a new chapter begins. So thinking of what happens as we age, and sometimes people encounter either illnesses or limitations that come up. And these may be planned or unplanned, or things that one can see or project over time. They can unfortunately be somewhat sudden. So regardless of what sort of changes come about, the family system is something that evolves. So people's roles may change, just as they do throughout our whole lifespan, where we're little kids, we have parents, and then we may grow older and have children of our own, or spouses and partners, significant others. those roles can change significantly as we get a bit older, and oftentimes for the family members and loved ones, the role can change to providing a little bit of help, where in years before, maybe that help wasn't really offered or needed or asked for. And so part of this work is becoming a family care partner and being aware of how these roles change. There are different different phases of how family members and friends in the network adjust, and whether it be a critical illness that comes up, or a hospitalization, or something acute, or many times there are more chronic type conditions and just life stages that come about. One way or another, we all have to navigate and adjust. And some of the things to think about are these changing roles. So adult children may feel differently over the years as having an increased responsibility, perhaps not only for their own children, but aging parents, aging family members. Many people might have heard the term the sandwich generation. So that's talking about people who are feeling like they're in the middle of being responsible and caring for both folks in their family younger than them and older than them. And oftentimes what comes up under these times of stress and change and some needed adjustments would be family conflicts get reawakened. So sometimes people will say old stuff or unfinished business or things that may have been issues during different types of one's lifespan. It's so interesting that they kind of rear their head, especially during times of stress or times of, say, relationship systems, as people age and their needs change. So these are sort of things that frame up the need for conversations. Families will often, and older adults too, re-examine their own roles. So like, what's my role in the family as their relationship changed? Perhaps, let's say, losing a spouse or having a partner who has chronic illnesses to manage. And for the adult children, the same, as they see a parent or a loved one getting older and their needs changing. It's a process of navigating certain losses and changes, but there are also a lot of opportunities for integrating this whole life experience and this shared experience as a family. So I know that that's all maybe a little bit up in the clouds and a little bit broad, but so the realities on the ground, coming to terms with aging. It's definitely going to surprise people. I mean, some ways it shouldn't, because we all know we are aging, whether we're somewhat young or however one identifies. I think from a pretty young age, we all start to understand, the numbers go up. Some of the conditions can be manageable. Some can have pain and discomfort. Some can be somewhat messy, and some can't be fixed. Couples do and may age really differently from one another. And one of the biggest points that we see in working with families again and again is that everyone has their own way of navigating and dealing with and coping with and talking about or not talking about these challenges that come up as we age. So the real challenge and also the opportunity is to figure out, and hopefully within a family or within one's network of care partners and loved ones and people in your support system, how to adapt and how to find a continued purpose. So there's one gerontologist who asked some interesting rhetorical questions about what does aging well mean to a loved one? I think the answer is it depends. I mean, some people will say not being a burden. Some people say staying connected, making a difference. And other important things are not being defined by one's physical illnesses or changes or diagnoses or losses, and to not be defeated by them either. I think these are important things to think about as we are moving into talking about these family conversations. I think other things would be having some satisfaction with one's life in spite of challenges and changes that come up. And for other people, retaining a spirit of optimism and hope and feeling meaning in making meaning out of one's connections and experience. And often, and in later chapters, there may be a tendency for more self-reflection. I'm a fan of it because I'm a social worker and we're aligned with therapists, but I'm a fan of self-reflection. So oftentimes in later chapters, there is more opportunity and maybe more prompting to be looking a bit in the rearview mirror to see, wow, what have I done with my life? And kind of making sense and putting together meaning. And I think that's incredibly important, and it's an absolutely wonderful opportunity. It's also an opportunity to maintain connection with one's community, with one's family, family of origin, family of choice, and those that matter most to us. So getting more into the meat of why is it important to have these conversations? So sometimes, a lot of family members have talked with in the past, they'll say, just can't get around to talking about these tough questions. And are there any opportunities and ways to kind of get a foot in the door? Because we're talking about mortality. We're talking about potential bad things or uncomfortable things, uncomfortable experiences, some experiences that maybe are beyond our control or to a degree. Naturally, that's going to create a lot of stress, and we're human. We tend to avoid these sort of things. So what's so good is that family conversations can really become moments and milestones that we can look back on and refer to. Oftentimes, these conversations will come about after some sort of crisis. So, for example, a person has a fall and goes into the hospital, or has a sudden loss, or other major life changes. So these are crises, but you've probably heard the anecdote of crisis is more an opportunity, and it is. During this time of increased stress, it's also a time of increased opportunity to take a fresh look at things. And another important point is that by really kind of broaching the elephant in the room, asking open-ended questions of one's loved ones, being able to express concerns, observations, and really have an awareness of what potential changes have been taking place in a person's day-to-day situation, whether it be in the physical environment, their support system, how they go about their day. These are all important components. And by starting the conversation and continuing conversations, these are all chances and opportunities for families to connect with our loved ones. And not always necessarily going to be the case, but I am always of a hopeful nature. I've seen many cases and situations where these sorts of life events and the aging process will actually create and generate opportunities for a repair of relationships. So bringing back that, say, old business, old conflicts, old maybe hurt feelings, opportunities for some reconciliation and forgiveness. So As for, you're probably maybe thinking, how do we have these conversations? How do I talk to my loved ones, whether it be one's parents or another family member, whether one has some immediate concerns or seeing some changes that are coming up? How on earth do I go about this? So, because it can be kind of intimidating, especially if one gets in one's head about saying, Mom, I want to talk about, what do you want us to do if you can't advocate for yourself? What if you end up in the hospital and somehow are, you know, under anesthetic, and what are your preferences? It's really hard to broach these things, and it's, again, no fault of the person involved, but I think the natural human thing to do is to avoid, because we don't want to think about either things that are outside of our control, things that are going to be stressful, maybe painful, maybe involve some loss. So rest assured, you don't have to go in totally without any tools. So one of the best things that I've learned about in the past couple of years is actually from one of our wonderful in-house attorneys who work on our legal services team for clients in the community. She has shown me these fantastic games. They are card games. One of them actually, like a deck of cards, playing cards, they also serve as regular playing cards. They are fantastic and actually, I would say, kind of fun ways to explore what one's intentions are. So how does this sort of thing work? So each of, say, the deck of cards in the Heart to Hearts, and I'm looking at my pack that's on my desk here, each one of the cards actually has its own message. So, and one can play different versions of the game, such as asking with another family member, questions that come up on the cards like, my bucket lists includes, please elaborate. We're having this kind of conversation because, over to you, loved one. And one can play different variations that would include just tell me more, why. Other variations can be more of the how or who, what, and why, as for different scenarios. So for example, if this happens, who would you call? If you were having trouble getting food, who would you lean on? What does moving to a retirement community mean to you? And it is incredibly helpful to be able to have some physical things actually in a game type format. It's an incredible pressure release valve. And I could actually envision that people of all different age spans would be able to have these sort of conversations. So I wanted to let you know about those. I'm happy to include links later. They're actually available online, and they are great ways to raise and start broaching these conversations. So there are also some wonderful reading materials, including the Conversation Project and also 5 Wishes. And I would highly recommend checking out those sites because they really can go into a lot of detail about uncovering and again, asking these sort of bigger open-ended questions that are not so easy to answer yes or no to. And to really prompt a conversation and a dialogue. The other couple of things I wanted to point out, actually on our very own website, we have a whole written guide. It's quite in-depth, but also very plain language about healthcare advanced directives. So that's sort of healthcare planning for thinking ahead to what one's needs may be and how to be able to state one's wishes to the people we care about and the people who are in our support system. And so that the whole goal is that my intentions are going to be known and reflected and actually documented for the people who I want to be advocates for me. At times, I may not be able to be my own advocate for various reasons. And I also wanted to emphasize too, it's perfectly okay that if people are still maybe having some challenges in having these somewhat potentially difficult conversations with family members. It is quite frequent that I talk with family members, and one of the great things that we can provide through our social work and community services is providing someone who is actually outside of the family's unit. So someone who's not a family member, who's independent, has expertise, and doesn't necessarily have a say or any of the family history or baggage to help ease these conversations along and really help uncover and elicit what's most important to a person, what's most important to each member of the family. What are some of the fears and what are some of the hopes? And really kind of getting together with these larger questions. So actually the conversation is not a one-off. So it's really a series of conversations. I know sometimes people frame things up as we're going to have a big talk or the talk. I think it's best to manage expectations that I think it's probably not very likely to have everything all sorted out, squared away in one conversation. I've got it all figured out about, all the different potential scenarios for future chapters of my life, being able to express all of my intentions, being able to sort out what kind of support systems I need. I don't think it's really realistic to have a conversation. So some of the best tips that I've gotten from work experience and from some reading have been plan for a series of conversations. So some of the steps really are a matter of preparing, doing some reading, doing some thinking, self-reflecting, possibly even journaling or making recordings, and setting a time, setting a place, possibly getting a tool, such as one of these worksheets or books, or even a card game, and being able to set the stage to have a meaningful conversation and to just open the door or to put a foot in the door of, I want to talk about this because I care about you and because I love you. And, realizing that whether they be coming from a place of concern, the place of concern is really from a place of caring. So a positive intent, a positive intention. I've got a couple of other sort of pro tips how to offer and provide help, provide support. I think one of the things that can be most helpful is trying to help normalize when we're talking with a loved one and possibly we're noticing that they're struggling, and just being able to name that and recognize that these may be difficult times, and realizing that it's okay to ask for support. It's okay to offer, and just being aware and self-aware of, as we get involved in a conversation with a family member, maybe having these life changes, that it's going to bring up different emotions, and all different emotions are welcome. So we're only human. Some of the other things where I think it's easy for us to potentially misstep as we're talking with loved ones about aging or challenges or things that we might be concerned about is to minimize or invalidate the other person's feelings. And these topics do bring up strong emotions. So I think for an example would be to inadvertently, sometimes people can hurt another person's feelings by trying to say, oh, don't worry, it's not that serious, or um, they're there, it's going to be okay. And then that really can be kind of dismissive. I think the intent is to help a person feel better, but sometimes this is kind of called cheerleading and or glossing over things. So reality coupled with some hope. And that, I think, is part of my next point of trying to facilitate and instill hope in the situation. As I talked about at the very beginning, some of these conditions or challenges may not have an easy answer. There may not be a fix per se, or one even possible way out of things to get through a challenging situation, but there's always an opportunity to recognize the potential for hope and to reflect on the idea of that we are here in this together and we have a support system, and by being able to be present and offering support and basically offering a menu of options and ideas and really just listening and being present can be some of the biggest forms of making some space for another family member who might be struggling or having some challenges. I think these are some of the points I kind of just talked through about setting the scene, choosing a time and place, kind of figuring out the venue. In line at Starbucks, probably maybe not the best time and place, for example. Or maybe after an exhausting day, or during a particularly stressful situation. So be choosy, be thoughtful, be mindful, be intentional, be sensitive, and allowing space for all parties to be able to express, some of their feelings, their concerns. I just want to shift a little bit into some of the key things to think about as for issues that come up around having these conversations with family members. So number one thing I would say is figuring out and mapping out who is in your support system. They may or may not be the immediate family. More and more families are spread out around the country, around the world. Who else? And really figuring out how can those people in your life support in any and all different types of ways. Other issues in each of these tend to be sticking points with family conversations where, say, a family member notices changes or concerns. And these are all sort of the main topics that will come up, and also precipitating events or catalysts for family discussion. So for driving, how does one address concerns about, say, noticing, for example, saying, I think I've seen another fender bender, and I'm concerned, loved one, about safety, and I wonder if we could have a conversation about that. It makes me feel worried for you, and I want to talk more about how you're getting around these days, and maybe we need to talk about different ways of getting out to appointments or getting connected to those social activities. Things like that. Managing medications, and loneliness and social isolation. It is one of the most significant things, is challenges as one maybe is moving and losing connections, whether it be through geography or loss or people passing away, separations or rifts in families. this is certainly one of the bigger challenges of addressing loneliness, social isolation, and long brewing family conflicts. Every family has their baggage, or the dirty laundry, or whatever cliche you want to call it. But it's a part of life. It's a part of having a family. It's a part of being a family. And as one ages, it may come up where some of these sort of what had once been dormant issues arise. And interestingly, sometimes family members can revert into old roles. Everybody in the family or the circle has their own role to play, and the roles change when one gets under extra stress. So these are all opportunities to have a conversation and also to ask for additional guidance, maybe even outside expert help from like a care manager or a social worker or a family therapist, navigating these different events. So other big stressors, navigating hospital medical systems, going in and out of the hospital or rehab, discharging, new diagnoses, whether it be physical health issues or neurological or other sorts of things beyond just one's physical health. And then also stressors around finances. And one of the biggest attachments is where one has been living. Many times people are living in the same place for decades and decades. And for one reason or another, it may be different changes taking place during one's aging events where adaptations or the idea of possibly moving comes up. And then the last couple of things here, just need to flip to the next one. Last one. I was going to say top 10, but that's why I said, I think 12. It's not uncommon for folks to feel ambivalent or maybe resistant to care or support. We're all generally very independent people. We're in a very independent culture in the US here. And more often than not, we're often used to doing our own things all the time. And so when suddenly or gradually one's life changes and one actually needs a little help, it can be a big adjustment. And other family members or loved ones can sometimes feel some resistance or ambivalence, which means uncertainty. A person may feel, yeah, I could probably benefit from some help or some changes, but I really don't want to change. I don't know if I want that person in the house. And then, of course, these other stressors of mental health, emotional health, finances, and actually managing our own expectations as a care partner, as a loved one, as someone who is working with another family member who's going through their own aging process, their own challenges or struggles. It's a process of needing to constantly reflect on our own expectations around our family members and ourselves, and really taking a look on an ongoing basis about what's really my responsibility, what's really possible, what's the other person's choices and intentions and their decision-making ability to navigate and chart their own course in life. And how do I fit into that? So I just wanted to highlight and give a couple of the additional links and resources. And I don't know if Pam, you have people's emails. I would be happy to put together a handout document and email that out if people were interested.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to put that, I can send that out to the whole group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I
Yeah.
feel like I talked for a long, long time, but I know we've got some more time. So I just wanted to open up for if anyone did have any questions in the chat, or if they wanted to just speak about any reactions, questions, thoughts.
That was awesome, Rich. Any
Thank you.
questions from the group? Right. Well, we know where to find y'all and send us that information and we can send that out in the group. Sometimes we'll think about things and come back with more questions. So maybe that'll happen. But now we will have a talk again from CJE in the fall. And we'll be doing what we did last year, which was with the solo aging. So that'll be a great talk for everyone. Yeah. Any
Uh,
questions? If you have a question, feel free to interrupt me.
and I was going to echo that and also just say too, I think it's worth repeating or emphasizing here in our work with families and folks who are 60 and up. It's an open invitation to start the conversation too. So I know a lot of what I talked about was, say, having a conversation with one's family or with one's loved ones, say in one's own home or together as a family. Every single day, our team of social workers here talks with older adults, whether one is new and or not new, and often family members who just want to express and share either their questions or concerns, just to get an independent perspective on the experience of aging. And we want to, and we do offer dedicated time to really focus and get a more full understanding of what's going well and what's been happening lately, what are some of the challenges and what are some of the goals, coming up with those, and hopefully we can be helpful to see how our agency can be of some support to help make some of those goals happen, help make life a little bit more interesting, a little bit more rich, and promote well-being and peace of mind and enjoyment. So another chance for a family conversation would be simply by giving us a call and setting up some time to talk with our lovely and welcoming social workers.
Well, thank again to Rich and Marla for joining us today, and from CJE SeniorLife. Check them out. And if you have any questions, I can also get you contacted, but you see their information. Thank you again for talking to us today and getting the conversation started, or at least in our minds as well. Check out our talk. Will be posted later today at nsymca.org/YES. If you have family members that you feel like should check this out, it'll be up there. With that, we do have a talk tonight at 7 o'clock by IBJI talking about spinal stenosis. So other than that, check us out in the fall when CJE returns again to talk about solo aging. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact them. Other than that, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.